History of English Literature, Romantic Age, 1798 to 1832, Part A, Episode 1. Brief questions with answers. Question 1. What is the duration of Romantic Age? Answer. The duration of Romantic Age is from 1798 to 1832. Question 2. Why is Romantic Age called the age of the return to nature? Answer. Romantic Age is called the age of the return to nature because the parts of the age dealt with nature and rejected 18th century poetry of social criticism. Question 3. Why is the Romantic Age called the revival of the English Romanticism or Second Renaissance? Answer. The Romantic Age is in fact the second age of Elizabethan Renaissance or Romanticism. The characteristics of Elizabethan Romanticism revived in the age of Wordsworth and his followers. Imagination, love for beauty, melancholic feeling, pantheism, etc. are both a revival and revival of the Elizabethan and the revolt against the classicism. Question 4. Which historical movement influenced Romantic poetry? Answer. French Revolution influenced Romantic poetry, which took place in 1798. Question 5. Who are the major Romantic poets? Answer. There are 5 major Romantic poets in English literature. They are William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Lord Byron, Percy B. Shelley, John Keats. Question 6. Why is the year 1798 important in the study of Romantic poetry? Answer. The year 1798 is important in the study of Romantic poetry because in the year 1798 Romantic Age began with the publication of Lyrical Ballads, a collection of poems written by Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. Question 7. What is Lyrical Ballads? Answer. Lyrical Ballads is a book of poems that contains 19 poems by Wordsworth and Coleridge. Romantic Age begins with the publication of Lyrical Ballads in 1798. Question 8. What is Romanticism? Romanticism is a literary movement against rigid rules of classical and new classical literature and a return to the literary ideals of the Elizabethans. Question 9. What are the different isms of the Romantic Age? Answer. The Romantic Age has given birth to different doctrines or isms. The popular isms of the age are mysticism, pantheism, asceticism, escapism, supernaturalism, lyricism, etc. Question 10. What influence of French Revolution is evident in the works of Romantic poets? Answer. French Revolution is a revolution regarding human rights. The slogan of French Revolution is equality, liberty, and fraternity. Romantic poets somehow voiced the slogan of French Revolution in their works. Love for all, equality, fraternity, brotherhood, etc. are echoed in Romantic poetry. Question 30. Why is Romantic movement called a revival and a revolt? Answer. Romantic movement is called a revival because it revives the literary ideals of the Elizabethans. It is also called revolt because it refuses the rigid convention of classical literature. Question 14. Name some minor poets of Romantic Age. Answer. Thomas Moore, Robert Southey, Thomas Campbell, Leigh Hunt, Ebenezer Eliot, Robert Bloomfield are some of the minor poets of Romantic Age. Question 15. Who are the novelists of Romantic Age? Answer. John Austen, Sir Walter Scott, Maria Edgeworth are the novelists of Romantic Age. Question 16. Name some prose writers of Romantic Age. Answer: Charles Lamb, Thomas De Quincey, William Hazlitt are prose writers of Romantic Age. Question 17. What was the popular form of poetry during the Romantic Age? Answer: Ode was the popular form of poetry of the Romantic Age, as dramatic monologue was the popular form of poetry of the Victorian Age. Question 18. Name some dramas written during the Romantic Age. Answer: Remorse, Coleridge; The Borderers, Wordsworth; The Sicily, Shelley. Are some dramas of the Romantic Age. Question 19. Mention some literary criticisms of the Romantic Age. Answer: Some literary criticisms of the Romantic Age are the Defense of Poetry, Shelley; Biographia Literaria, Coleridge; Lyrical Ballads, Wordsworth. Question 20. What literary styles forms do you find during the Romantic Age? Answer: During Romantic Age, different literary forms and styles existed. Most importantly, poetry, prose, literary criticism, essay, and a few biographical works were written. Drama was attempted, but it was not successful. On the other hand, novel not significant. On the other hand, novel got significant rise during the Romantic Age. Question 21. What does nature mean to the Romantic Age by Romantic poets? What did nature mean to the Augustan poets? Answer: To the Augustan poets who preceded the Romantic poets, nature meant human nature, but to the Romantic poets of the 19th century, nature means the world of trees, fruits, flowers, etc. Question 22. When did the French Revolution break out? Answer: The French Revolution broke out in 1798. Question 23. What is the motto slogan of French Revolution? Answer: Equality, liberty, and fraternity was the motto slogan of the French Revolution. Question 24. Which age came before and after Romantic Age? Answer: The New Classical Age came before the Romantic Age, and the Victorian Age came after Romantic Age. Question 25. Who was the leader of Romantic poets? Answer: William Wordsworth and Coleridge were the vanguards, leaders of Romantic poets. Question 26. What are the main features of English Romantic poetry? Answer: The main features of English Romantic poetry are pantheism, mysticism, imagination, love for nature, escapism, nostalgic feeling, supernaturalism, individualism. Question 27. Who are called Lake District poets? Answer: Wordsworth and Coleridge are called the Lake District poets because they are born and brought up in Lake District. Question 28. Which of the Romantic poets is called the sublime egoist? Answer: William Wordsworth is called the sublime egoist for his high imaginative sensibility that upholds domestic circumstances of life. Question 29. Who were the younger Romantics? Answer: Byron, Shelley, Keats were the younger Romantics. Question 29. Who were the older Romantics? Answer: Blake, Wordsworth, Coleridge, and Scott were the early or older Romantics. Question 30. Who were the Romantic prose writers? Answer: Charles Lamb, Leigh Hunt, Hazlitt, Godwin, Cobbett, and De Quincey were the Romantic prose writers. Question 31. Name some fictions of Romantic Age. Answer: Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen, The Lady of the Last Minstrel, Scott are two fictions of Romantic Age. Question 32. Who is the pioneer of romantic poetry? Answer. William Wordsworth is the pioneer of romantic poetry. Question 33. What is pantheism? Answer. Pantheism is a belief that God lives in nature and nature is God. Wordsworth's nature philosophy has something common with pantheistic philosophy. Question 34. Who is the proponent of pantheism? Pantheism. Who did expound pantheism in romantic poets? Answer. William Wordsworth expounds pantheism in romantic poetry. He discovers that spirit pervades all objects of nature and the human heart. Question 35. Name some important poem by William Wordsworth. Answer. Some important poems by Wordsworth are Intimation of Immortality, Intimation of Immortality, A Wander Lonely as a Cloud, Tintern Abbey, The Prelude, etc. Question 36. Name some autobiographical poems of Wordsworth. Answer. The Prelude and the Tintern Abbey are the autobiographical poems of Wordsworth. Question 37. What is the name of drama by Wordsworth? Answer. The Borderers is the name of the drama written by Wordsworth. Question 38. Why are Wordsworth's Lucy poems important? Answer. Wordsworth's Lucy poems are important as they give as an account of personal experience of his life. Lucy poems are gay and joyous. Question 39. Name some sonnets by Wordsworth. Answer. The world is too much with us. Westminster Bridge, London are some of the sonnets by Wordsworth. Question 40. What is the name of Wordsworth's critical works? Answer. The Preface to Lyrical Ballads is a literary criticism by Wordsworth. Question 41. What, according to Wordsworth, is the definition of poetry? Answer. The definition of poetry by Wordsworth: poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings and emotions recollected by tranquility. Question 42. What relation is Dorothy to William Wordsworth? Answer. Dorothy is the sister of Wordsworth. She accompanied Wordsworth in his visit to Tintern Abbey. Question 43. Why is Dorothy's journal important? Answer. The journal, she jots down her observations of the days and the seasons. This journal gives us a close-up view of the country setting that the romantic poets loved. The journal describes vividly the sights and sounds of countryside, the mood of nature. So her journal is important for the appreciation of romantic poetry. Question 44. What is William Wordsworth's advice to his sister Dorothy about nature? Answer. William Wordsworth's advice to his sister is to love nature, because nature does not betray the heart that loves her. It gives shelter when man is in distress. Question 45. Why does Wordsworth add a preface to lyrical ballads? Answer. Wordsworth adds a preface to lyrical ballads to explain the theme, subject matter, and style of romantic poetry, and how romantic poetry is different from traditional 18th century poetry. Question 46. What is the full title of Wordsworth's poem, Tintern Abbey? Answer. The full title of Wordsworth's Tintern Abbey is Lines Composed of Tintern Abbey on revisiting the banks of the Wye during a tour, July 13, 1798. Question 47. When was Wordsworth's poem, The Prelude, published? Answer. Wordsworth's poem, The Prelude, was completed in 1805, but it was not published until 1850, after Wordsworth's death. It is the record of his development as a poet. Question 48. Why is Wordsworth called a poet of nature? Answer. Wordsworth is called poet of nature because nature or natural objects are the subject matter of his poetry. He believed that God exists in all objects of nature. He spiritualized nature. Question 49. Who accompanied Wordsworth in his visit to Wye Valley? Answer. Dorothy, his sister, accompanied Wordsworth in his visit to Wye Valley. Question 50. When did Wordsworth die? Answer. Wordsworth died in 1850. Thank you, viewers.